was There For Me, Aaron Cole, and we are here for you, aren't we, Sam?
Oh yes.
Oh yes. And also, Rees, give us a wave. Rees is in the building. I'm so impressed that, you know, you guys have rocked up, not on time but early, and this is every presenter's dream. So thumbs up to you. I am so buzzing, bouncing off the walls. Thank you both to yourself, Sam and Rees, for agreeing to be on the show today on raising awareness. Sam, I'm just completely bowled over with you, and you're such a humble soul, which is so rare to find with what you do. And Rees is a humble soul as well, and it's a real joy because you know, you don't always find that. So anyway, enough of me rambling on. Who are you, Sam?
Well, yeah, I'm Sam Warner, and the thing is, I'm someone who used to get told at school, if you would just stop talking, in all of my school reports.
Right.
And I'd love to go back to my school and see all my teachers and go, you know that talking I used to do? Yeah, I do it for a living now. But in all seriousness, I help people with communication, particularly getting their message across, because some people might talk a lot, but people don't listen. And some people might not talk at all, so they never get a chance for someone to listen to their message. So I like to work with people to release their message to the world.
I love that. And you know what I love as well? The fact that you have a message to release to the world, and you're doing that through different mediums, not just your communications business, but also, you know, you educate businesses and help autistic adults in the process. And not only that, you also are a TEDx speaker and organiser, aren't you?
Well, yes, it's speaker in the making, because I'm going to be doing my TEDx talk in April in 2020, so next year, and that's on the 23rd, and it's in Malvern. So that's tedxmalvern.co.uk if you want to buy a ticket.
Defo, I think we need to get you in the studio before your talk, and just get you promoting that. Do you know what you're going to talk about yet?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I have my idea worth sharing.
So would it be a little bit naughty of me to ask what you're going to be talking about?
Oh, no, not at all. No, it's not a secret. I'm going to be talking about self-awareness. And not in general terms, because I think, you know, it's not a new subject. It's not like, ooh, we've never thought of that before. It's in terms of how we operate in the work environment, and how being self-aware from both an autistic side of things and a non-autistic side of things, everything can be improved with communication and behaviour changes. But they're not massive changes, they're little tiny tweaks.
Yeah.
They're nothing to be scared of.
And I love that. If I could ask you to, that's it. Thank you.
There we go.
Let's get acquainted with the mics. Wow. So self-awareness is something that I've been coaching on for decades, and what I love about it is that I'm learning all the time about self-awareness. So I would be really intrigued from a personal development perspective to learn more through your work. So I might just, you know, see me prop up in your TEDx talk next year. So yeah, getting back to your communications, and how did you start in communications?
Well, it was actually when I was in a conventional 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And I sort of had one of those moments where you scratch your head, go, so why is it that I always seem to go for this kind of job and work with these kind of people? And the kind of people I ended up working with a lot were blokes and people who were really interested in technology or being very direct with their speech. So I used to work for a company years ago called Alvis Vickers that made large armoured vehicles, and so the people we tended to have on the staff were ex-MOD, ex-Army, and they speak very plainly and directly, and I love that because I don't have to try and figure out what they're talking about. They just tell me what they're saying, and that's what it is. It's great. And then, so as I analysed this, I thought, well, I'm not like other girls, am I?
I love that.
and I don't want to be a boy.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? And that's how I started to explore how my brain might be a bit different, and then had my aha moment. That was about 11 years ago.
Wow! Oh my goodness. So are you left brain or right brained?
I'm golden brained.
What's golden brain?
That's both sides, baby.
Yeah!
I can actually switch, like choose to switch from one side of my brain to the other.
I love that. So you'll have to tell me a bit more about that off air, because it might confuse some listeners on a Saturday morning at 10:30. But wow, so what were the immediate challenges that you found when you started this communications journey?
What I found was that other people don't always have the same opportunities to speak up for themselves as some. So I was never very good at the whole playing the game at work, sucking up to the right people, all of that stuff. I just wanted recognition for a job well done. But then I soon realised that if you don't speak up, if you don't ask for what you want, then you get nothing. And then you get miserable.
Yeah.
So through exploring how I could be more assertive, speak up for myself in the right way, I was then able to help other people who were struggling with the same thing. And that, to start with, it just started with some coaching in the job I was in with other people. And then more and more people wanted my coaching, and it sort of blossomed from there.
Wow, excellent, lovely. And I just, we were talking about blossoming, weren't we, on the phone earlier this week?
Mm-hmm.
And how you blossomed into your journey with autism, and which we're going to talk about after a track. And that's really the sole purpose of you being here, is to raise awareness and actually bring a different slant. A lot of organisations now are starting to turn their efforts on their wellbeing charters. I know in my workplace we have, and part of that is recognising where people, individuals, adults, may have autism, Asperger's, and how the workforce can support those individuals. So I know what you've got to say is really, really amazing, because it's going to help a lot of people today. And that's, it doesn't just go into the workplace, because now the boundaries are blurred. Work doesn't stop when you leave, and home life doesn't stop when you walk into the door at work. It's all blurred. So what you've got to say actually is going to filter out into every aspect of life. But let's have a couple of tracks first, and then we're going to share. Yes, this is Radio Plus, and I just was trying to explain to Sam just before I hit the buttons what's happening. I hope I made sense.
Yes.
But we're having such a great time and talking off air about autism and the effects that actually society's perception, and probably my own perception in the past as well, where it's I've not had the education to know what's going on, and I come from a corporate background within learning and development, and HR. So and corporations, businesses are only just catching on to the wellbeing charter. I know this because I've been part of many, and starting to recognise actually if that person isn't behaving, if their conduct isn't how we expect, then we need to explore that instead of, putting a label on them and saying that they're not performing and they're going to be put on a performance improvement plan. And that's actually made me question when I've managed people in the past. So tell us a little bit about your story with autism. Where did it start, and how did you discover it that you were autistic?
Well, when I had those thoughts that I mentioned earlier about why is it that I always like to work with guys who speak very clearly, and I'm not that enamoured with working with ladies who don't speak clearly,
Yes.
and they talk about things I'm not very interested in, that's when I went online and used a famous search engine to explore, so what's going on, why am I different? And then there was one of those questionnaires that you might do online, and it was 50 questions to find out if you're autistic. I was like, I'll give that a go. And at first I kind of thought it was a bit of a joke, and I got all the other guys in the office to do it as well, and I scored higher than some of the guys, and I was working in an IT office, so I was quite surprised to be honest. Stereotypically, a lot of guys guys who work in IT are most definitely on the spectrum, and it just means their brain is wired in a certain way that they're able to focus fantastically on the job at hand. They like the black and white world of binary, or hexadecimal, whatever you want to call it, and all the other languages that you program in. And there's something really calming about problem solving through a code, which is like you've got the key to the problem. You can open up that solution, ta-da, and it feels really good. And why shouldn't you feel good about your job? So that's when I realised, okay, so I am quite different. And then when I went to my doctor, I tried to get a formal diagnosis, not because I want to wear a label, but because you start to doubt yourself. You start thinking, so am I making this up? Do I just want to be autistic? And then my doctor said, so I don't really see why you need to go and get this done. It's going to take a long time, and it's going to cost the NHS quite a lot of money. You wouldn't be entitled to any benefits because you work full time, and you are able to function in society fully. So as far as we're concerned, there's no reason to send you for a formal diagnosis. And I said, oh, right, okay. She says you can get a private diagnosis. They're about £1,000, and they're not recognised by the NHS. Oh, right. Okay, so no point getting that then. So that's when I went into full overdrive research mode, and that's when I explored a lot, and I read a lot of Simon Baron-Cohen's stuff and his tests, and that's when I did more and more tests that I found, more comprehensive tests that psychiatrists would use when they are testing people. And that's when I discovered that I'm a very high scorer for a girl, and I'm most definitely autistic. I don't need a piece of paper to tell me.
Wow. So you actually, what an incredible, courageous lady you are to do that, because I can guarantee some people would have given up, and if I had been in your shoes, I might have been one of those people, and that's just appalling, really, from your from the GP that you went to see. But not all GPs are like that either. Absolutely.
I've since moved entire healthcare facility.
Yeah.
So and it's wonderful now. They're really, really good people. But I haven't asked for a diagnosis because, to be honest, I don't think I need one. It's a bit like, I can equate it to, when someone says they're celiac.
Yes.
Do you say, can I see your letter please?
Yeah.
I don't believe you. Can you show me your letter to tell me you're celiac? Or is it actually okay that they've just told you, I'm celiac, I can't eat gluten, I'll be poorly? So why is that not the same for autism?
Yeah. And some of it is lack of education, which is where I come in. I just didn't know what autism meant. Didn't know how to react or respond to people who were autistic, and that was probably 5 years ago. And I think it's the same for some GPs as well. It's a lack of education, and people aren't talking about it enough.
And I don't look like Rain Man, so so it's really hard if I'm not avoiding all eye contact, which I had to learn to be okay with.
Wow.
I'm giving you eye contact right now, and quite often you'll see my eyes go all over the place, and then I'll come back to you, and that's the way I cope with eye contact. I need like a break, and then I come back.
Yeah.
But I can't do it constantly because it's overwhelming. It's like having another voice in the room in terms of extra sensory input. And some people say, avoiding eye contact, that means you're shifty, you've got something to hide. No, it doesn't at all. It means that someone can really listen to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're really pioneering the educational part. You teach people how to behave and deal with adults with autism. You're also a regular contributor on BBC, which is Radio
Shropshire.
Not that we're doing a link there, of course we are, because we're promoting you. But you're doing a heck of a lot, and so far, you've gone so far with what you're doing in terms of TEDx, and you're bringing this topic into TEDx.
Absolutely.
To reach more people, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to give a name check out to Toastmasters International. I've been a member of Toastmasters for 9 years.
Wow.
And it's an organisation that allows you to practice public speaking in a safe and friendly environment without any judgment whatsoever. You just get really good quality, positive feedback. So you get what worked really well, what nugget of improvement you could try next time, and then the thing that they like best. So it's just fantastically uplifting, but you are always constantly improving. And there's no other organisation I know of that allows you to do that in that way, consistently, twice a month, every month. And like I say, I've been doing it for 9 years. I've also had leadership positions that I never would have had in corporate.
Wow.
Opportunities, I was looking after 5,000 people at one point, and you just think, well, that's never going to happen in corporate, because they see me as a bit of a wacko. They're like, oh, she's a bit eccentric, No, I'm just not a robot, sorry.
I love it. Good for you, Sam. Good for you. You're living, breathing and walking this message, and I know you've got lots and lots of stories, which we're going to continue with as the show goes on, and also bring our pal Rees in,
Yes.
who's patiently sitting in the station. I couldn't get my words out then. But yeah, good for you, man. We're going to hear more. Let's have some music, and we will meet you on the other side of the Health and Wellbeing show, officially called Inspiration Hour. With Rees and Sam in the studio. We're having such a laugh, aren't we, putting the world to rights? Welcome, Rees.
Hello, I'm going to behave now. I'm going to respect NDAs and completely behave.
Right.
Don't ask.
So if you've just joined us, we are talking all things autism today. We've got Sam and Rees in the studio who are raising awareness, not just on the show today, in the studio, but in their lives. Incredibly courageous people, I have to say. I'm totally inspired and encouraged by you both, your journeys and what you're doing, and we're going to learn more. We are going to learn more. So stay tuned. This is Inspiration Hour, and we're bringing you lots of inspiration. Let's have a bit of music, shall we, guys?
Yeah, sure. Let's do.
Why
Let's have
not?
our music. What music are we having?
We're having Shabba Dabba Ding Dong, Miracle, Torrin Wells. No.
I've
And
definitely
I
heard
don't
that.
have any superpowers, just saying.
Whoa! I can see around corners. That's the rumour I'm trying to start on Twitter and through my book.
That was Torrin Wells' Miracle, and Rees's frozen expression because he was just about to say something. What were you about to say, Rees?
Oh, I don't know. I've lost my train of thought now. I'm pretending that I was scared because the red light came on. What were we talking about? Diversity in the workplace.
We were.
Neurodiversity on the whole. I think that's the new movement. That's.
Yeah, definitely.
I say new.
I mean,
It's been around
diversity and inclusion, certainly when I was in corporate, was very much for people of colour, black people, I don't know what the correct terms are anymore, and for people who are LGBTQ+, I think I've got that correct. And it just seems that people with any mental health problems, issues, conditions were just left off that list.
It's strange because of the crossover as well. I mean, so neurodiversity covers all the neurological conditions, your OCDs, Tourette's, ADHD, I've missed tons, and then that would cross over into people of colour, women, and
Of course.
the LGBT community, and I think that needs noticing as well. I think
Yeah.
I've had a real issue. The book went live on Amazon a week ago, and it's automatically gone into the children's section because autism is listed under child conditions
That's
and
it.
parenting
Because
guides.
as soon as you hit 18, it goes away, didn't you know?
It's true.
No, it's fantastic. It's an amazing condition. The brain's so clever. I'm kidding.
And I think that's another one of the myths that needs to be broken away. And I think in a world of autism myths, we need autism legends.
We do. We need autism superheroes, which is exactly what
Oh, that's a buzzword.
What's your
superheroes.
superpower, Rees?
I can see around corners,
No way.
and we all can. And if anyone says we can't, it's a government conspiracy, and they're trying to repress us.
So yes, exactly. And
For legal reasons, that's not true.
No. Well, anyway, so Rees, we've heard a little bit, just the cusp of what how she's making a difference in this arena and beyond. But it all ties in together because communication, it's, you're communicating or teaching people how to communicate and react and respond to people with autism. Rees, what I love about you is that his eyes have just nearly popped out of his head. Don't be scared.
I'm not good at compliments, so don't compliment me.
Oh, well, I think we need to shower him with compliments now. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, my friend. How did you discover you were autistic?
How do I word this without going back to court? It was kind of a perfect storm of things going wrong in my life, workplace, relationships, family, and that caused a complete, how do I word this softly for a midday audience?
Storm?
meltdown?
Extreme mental health conundrum, which saw me hospitalised, and during that there was a doctor's referral to be tested for autism. Apparently I was tested as a child. I remember being in rooms with people, but I didn't know what it was for, and I give good face, so I don't think it was picked up on.
How old are you, Rees?
I'm 26.
Okay,
Yes.
no, I'm just really interested, because when I was at school, I'm 46, autism was never ever mentioned.
Wow.
I think it's mentioned a lot now, but again, even with children, getting the diagnosis is hard, so I was on a waiting list for a year. It's interesting, actually. So it's now 2 years to the month where I got a referral. It's now 1 year to the month where I got the diagnosis. And now this month, there's a big book about it.
So this month is quite poignant for you then, isn't it?
It's a heavy month. I mean, even going back 5 years, I was in a car accident 5 years ago, which was another life-changing experience that probably sent me down this path.
Wow, I feel like we need to give you a hug later.
I'll just check in with Rees that he actually likes hugs, remember?
Yes, thank you.
I can do a hug, but no eye contact.
Oh, come on, every superhero needs a hug now.
I can see it coming from around the corner.
Love it, love it. Wow, so you've been through a lot, you know.
And then it's interesting to turn it into content as well.
Yeah.
And then you can't even regret or look back bitterly, because then it's become something successful or something to be proud of.
So the book that you've written, is it more like a graphic novel than a comic? Or is it a storybook? Can you let me know?
It's interesting to define in terms of genre. So I worked in comics for about almost 5 years now. And it's kind of built up to the point where I've been able to do graphic novels and more recognised stuff. I ended up working on Star Wars, Stranger Things, Walking Dead,
Great.
some other TV shows and whatnot. So when autism came into my head, it's like, I'm probably going to do something with this at some point.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be what it was, because it eventually grew into a hybrid of both a graphic novel and a novel,
Okay.
with the occasional rant sprinkled in. And that was a huge new step for me. But I think comics are amazing at conveying situations and emotions, but autism is such a nuanced subject that needs to be worded so delicately. I don't think comics could completely pull it off, so it needs a lot of written chapters as well.
Yeah, I get that. I really like it when I can identify with a character because that character's like me. So in terms of television, perhaps someone like Temperance Brennan from Bones, I would identify she and I are quite alike in some ways.
Yeah.
And as the series goes on, she softens up, and that's what happened to me. I learned how to soften my language for the general society that would like to hear my message, because not everybody likes super direct, blunt.
But that's an interesting. Would you describe that as masking?
To some extent, but I'm doing it on purpose to get something for myself,
So you're
not
in
because I
control
feel
of
I
it.
have to. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because I think masking is the term for suppressing autistic tendencies and
To fit in, yeah,
and I think
and make other people feel less uncomfortable.
if you boiled down everything that happened to me 2 years ago, that's what it was. I was repressing autistic tendencies to fit in a workplace, to fit in a relationship, and that's what caused the breakdown.
Okay.
So it's interesting, and I think there's a lot of, especially with children, it's kind of forcing them to conform to whatever society's expectation of the norm is, which is completely undefinable anyway, so trying to make someone adhere to that is a bit frivolous.
I have a question for you both, and what is the norm? Because we've got one end of the spectrum and the other end. So ideally, where is the norm? Where is the middle ground, guys?
There isn't one. That's the
Well,
problem.
do you mean
What would
normality
you
in regards to autism? Because again, even the spectrum, that's a bit of a myth in terms of it's a straight line. That you're normal on one end and
It's
on the other end you're...
Yeah, it's completely unrealistic, isn't it?
I think someone did a great diagram. It's like a big colourful wheel,
Yeah.
and it kind of...
If you had 1,000 people in the room
Yeah.
who were either diagnosed or undiagnosed but were autistic in some way, none of them would share the same traits, as in the same set of traits.
Yeah.
There's maybe 400 different traits, and someone would have the first 10, someone would have the last 10, someone might have a mixture of the two. But that's the problem. You can't put us in a convenient box and go, well, that person's autistic.
And massively infinite variables and combinations of things. No one's the same.
Yeah.
And this was a huge thing in my mind when I was doing the book. The book came about because I was desperate for some content to consume that I could help work out what was going on in my head, really struggling to come to terms with this diagnosis. 25 years thinking I was quote unquote normal, only to be told, no, you're disabled, you're part of the minority, and deal with it.
I'm not
No,
disabled.
no aftercare or anything. It's like, okay, I am disabled, but that shouldn't refine me to a life of suffering and pain.
No.
Yes, suffering and pain is a part of it, but that's a part of the human condition.
Yeah.
And I still think I can achieve things. And I had achieved things before that. I don't know. It's interesting now, being diagnosed, people treat you a bit differently. Back then it was, I've done a book and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Now it's like, oh, good for you.
Yeah, I get a lot of that.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the book in regards to how autism affects everyone so differently.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to make it as a guide. There's a lot of guides out there and I worry so much because on a good day it's pointless because someone can't write it all, and if they were to follow it, they probably won't get much out of it. On a bad day that could be extremely dangerous if someone was to follow that to the letter.
Yeah.
They could get seriously hurt or worse.
So what is your book about? Give us a little synopsis, Rees.
It's basically my journey from, you know, the referral a few years ago to now, and every now and then we'll jump back and explore things in my past that now suddenly make sense
Yes.
because of the diagnosis.
So is it autobiographical? You're in it?
100%. It's all about me.
Fantastic.
Some dirty secrets and exciting adventures. And I'm trying to be funny, I think. There's a myth that autistic people don't have sense of humour.
Absolutely.
And either I'm going to break that myth or adhere to it. We will see what happens.
It's like the myth about empathy. Oh my goodness.
It's almost the opposite.
The myth about empathy. It's not that we lack empathy, it's that...
We don't like you.
Well, kind of, yeah.
No, I'm joking.
It's actually a sympathy issue, right?
Yeah.
So I can step into your shoes and understand what you're going through. That's empathy, right? But you can't make me care. You can't make me go, yes, I agree, when I don't. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And people, they misjudge that completely and go, oh, yes, autistic people don't have any empathy, do they? And I see it all the time on social media and everything, and it's just not true.
It's not. It's not at all. And I think going back to what you both said, I think this is really great because this is an opportunity now. So for people like myself and those that are listening and tuned in right now going, well, okay, there's 400, over 400?
Oh, loads, yeah.
Loads of characteristics. Where does that leave me? How do I respond and react, you know, to people with autism? How can I help them without overstepping the mark? Go on, Rees.
It's an interesting one. I think, even in terms of healthcare, I think you kind of end up in these same cookie cutter situations. You get CBT or psychologists or whatever. Like, I had CBT and I didn't feel it benefited me. I think with autism treatment, because of the way it affects everyone so different, there's so many comorbid conditions and crossovers, that it needs to be completely bespoke and personalised to a person. But I also know that the NHS is so strained as a society at the moment, and you know, expecting the whole world to suddenly understand this massively complex and nuanced thing is difficult. And I think it just has to be done one step at a time, on an individual level, on a human level.
Yeah, I would love more education, particularly into primary schools. If you have a whole cohort of primary school kids coming through into secondary school, the bullying would be less because the kids would understand more. They'd be, oh, you're the weird one. There'd be far less of that going on because they would understand that everyone's just a little bit different in a little bit different ways, you know, and that's okay to be different. And that kid over there that has a teaching assistant, that's not a problem. Actually, he's really lucky to get a teaching assistant. You know, it's a flip it round, reframing of everything.
And then that absolutely trickles up to workplaces and
Yeah.
adult life as
You know,
well.
it's a self-advocate. Most people who are over 30 and are autistic are undiagnosed. And of the people who are diagnosed as an adult, only 15% of those are in work. And only 10% of those 15% feel safe at work. Safe. That word's really important, isn't it? They don't feel safe. They feel sick before they go to work. They hide in corners. They stick their earplugs in their ears so they can listen to music to block out the rest of the world because they don't feel safe. That's not good.
No, it's not acceptable as a society. It's not acceptable at all. But what I have noticed is over the past 4 or 5 years, that wellbeing charters and policies are being put in place.
They need to be adhered to. I think that's the important
Yeah.
thing. You know, I've been in workplaces where they preach love and tolerance and peace, and then behind the proclamations, it's
Yeah.
actually quite cruel and bullying.
I have to agree. This is about behavioural change,
Yeah.
and some people want to make those changes, some people don't, and some of it is around lack of fear of offending, because everybody gets offended now. Everyone's got an opinion. It goes down to the intensity in society. But actually, the first steps are actually just being kind and mindful.
Absolutely. And nobody likes change, right?
No.
Change is really, really stressful for everybody.
Yeah.
And if someone dares to say, well, we'd like you to behave differently, and we'd like you to communicate differently, and not do the same thing you've always done, which gets fed down constantly, and then those people become managers and they perpetuate, that's what we've always done, and it never gets changed, then people will always be told, like, you can't wear earphones in the office to do your work, because we don't do that here, instead of, actually, that person's really productive when they put their headphones in for an hour.
You're literally describing how it used to be when I was in workplaces like that. It's like verbatim.
Me too.
You know,
Incredible.
not to take away from the topic, but I am mildly dyslexic, and that wasn't spotted until I was in my adult age by my manager at the time, who was severely dyslexic. And so I totally feel the pain, because I was labelled as a child. I was in all the lowest sets. I just didn't, you know, academically, I just couldn't understand things.
I think that's problematic as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't really speak to schools now because I don't really know how they're like now, but back in my day, if you were any sort of neurodiverse, quote unquote different, you were just placed in a room and you were making artwork with pasta and macaroni. When, you know, some autistic people, you know, the autistic savant, not exactly Rain Man, but they have certain things they're very good at and very passionate about, and I think they should be encouraged a bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe they are in schools, maybe, you know, there is people in, you know, the higher math sets, but then they struggle with English, which would be fine. But I don't know, it's...
You're right, but there's lots of kids out there who are not academically blessed, shall we call that?
Yes.
And
I'm
actually,
one of them.
and actually they should be encouraged to do the things that make them happy, because that's what they'll do more of.
Yeah.
So if it's a case of going down into the tech department and learning how to bricklay or plaster or work with metal, welding, doing creative stuff, making sculptures, then why aren't we doing that?
Exactly.
Why don't we promote what they're really good at, instead of keep on telling them, yeah, you're rubbish at that, yeah, you're rubbish at that, you're rubbish at that.
If I was encouraged in my artwork when I was that age, I would be in a completely different league now.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I'm 10 years behind because of that.
Yeah.
You know, all they used to say was, oh, there's no jobs in that.
Yeah.
I
Don't bother.
do think we're a bit behind in the UK, you know, with these practices and this mindset, because, you know, there's schools that practice mindfulness and creativity in Europe, places like Germany.
Yeah,
We've
Finland,
got fantastic Finland, Switzerland. They've got fantastic educational, you know, resources and structures. And I've had to, over the years, say to my management, I'm mildly dyslexic, and so you just need more time. No, my brain is wired differently. So asking me to write a report, you're not going to get the best
Do
quality.
you know, I wouldn't even say mildly. I'd say drop the mildly, because that's what they're hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just drop mildly and just say, I'm dyslexic.
Exactly the same for autism as well.
Yeah.
I think there's that weird assumption that you're
I'm a
either
little bit
severely
autistic.
autistic or a little bit, or everyone's a little bit autistic.
Isn't
They're not.
Everyone's on the spectrum, Rees, remember? No, they're not.
But you know, this issue of autistic people not feeling safe, that is just not acceptable.
No, there's, you know, even this week there's been some horrific news articles about children being kept in isolation. And
Yeah.
Oh, and
beaten.
strained. Oh, yeah. Shocking, shocking. It's a lack of education and training. They're the biggest things that need improving.
So, talking of education, we're going to have a little bit of music, get you guys back on air, and give us the tips, you know, what has helped you. So anyone that's tuned in today that is aware that they're autistic or isn't, they've got some really great nuggets that they can walk away with of how they can treat people with autism, just be more self-aware, or if they're autistic, what they can do. Time that we're chatting away. Rees and Sam are connecting in a positive way. I think you two are going to create content in the future, and that's just going to help people. And we're talking about help. Anyone who's tuned in at the minute who's going, I don't know if I'm autistic, I might have autistic tendencies, or someone like me who's going, how can I be more mindful, self-aware and caring towards someone who's autistic? What advice and tips would you give us?
Wow, that's quite a huge one. So I'm going to take the second part actually. So in terms of being sensitive to other people, it's actually a bit about treating other people the way they'd like to be treated. A lot of people talk about, oh, I'll treat people the way I want to be treated, but actually I'm afraid that's not going to work because you and I are quite different. So then I would urge people to ask questions, but not in an aggressive way, in a kind, caring, thoughtful, really listen to the answers. Because like I said before, some people can't self-advocate. They don't know what they need or what they want to make themselves feel better, which is why meltdowns happen. You know, what's wrong with you? I don't know. All I know is,
Yeah.
I really like what you were saying before. I was in the room about self-awareness as well. I think that's been important to me. After a diagnosis, I was very lost and confused, and a lot of self-reflection was required to both come to terms with the diagnosis and come to terms with myself as a person. I think there was a lot of internal self-loathing, thanks in part to society's view on disabled people, as well as specifically autistic people. So I think it's about rising above that noise and realising that you're still a valid human being, you can still contribute to society. Just because you're disabled, it doesn't stop you from...
yeah.
And that's not for comparison. I think I got into hot water on Twitter for this, for saying you can still be successful and disabled. And people say, oh, not all of us can be famous like you, Rees, can't work on Star Wars. But it's subjective, you know.
Well, it is, because
Some days for me, cooking a meal is a success.
and you identify with the word disabled, and I don't. And we're both autistic. I consider myself to have something a bit extra, actually. I feel like I've won the lottery in terms of genetics because my problem solving skills are amazing.
Yeah, but that's due to
the
where it's presented in
ideas
you.
that I have. Yeah,
I think that's... I'm glad we can have this discussion with the subtlety and...
Yeah.
Because on Twitter, there's polemics. It's, you know, it's a disability, you're condemned to that. It's a superpower,
Yes.
you're brilliant. But it's, you know, the reality is it's not a disability to you because the way it's manifested in you.
Well,
In the way it's manifested in me, it's half disability,
yeah.
half empowering, and to some people it can...
And I can be crippled by sensory overload,
Yeah.
which would perhaps be called a disability. I've sat on the floor in an airport and cried my eyes out. I'm not proud of it. A couple of years ago, but I reached breaking point, and that was it. I sat on the floor like a 5-year-old. My husband just sort of walked away because he didn't really know what to do.
That's actually quite liberating, I think. All power to you. How do people just hold it in?
Oh,
So, for you,
That's another problem, is like holding it in, repressing it.
yeah.
Let your autistic flag fly. I mean, historically, the suicide rates in autistic people are horrifically high, and I think a lot of it is down to repressing those autistic tendencies. And I think society needs to realise that, because I think a lot of treatments as well are kind of focused on repressing that, being normal.
Oh yeah.
What's
one
normal?
called-
I don't know, but do it.
Like ABA, which is a treatment for kids, is literally about normalising autistic children so that they fit into society. So they lose their autistic traits, but actually what it's doing is teaching you a technique to mask your innate personality. the way
You ever seen A
express
Clockwork
yourself.
Orange? It's basically that.
It's
dear.
horrendous.
That's a horrific
And
And
it's
that's-
film.
supported
Yeah.
like in America and some places in the UK as well.
A lot of places in the UK.
Bringing it back to your book, Rees, your book is a way of helping others.
Yeah, I think it brings something new to the table in terms, but it's funny and it's entertaining, it's engaging. I think no matter where you are on the spectrum or off the spectrum, because not everyone's a little bit autistic. But yeah, there's a lot of good autism books out there. But I think if you want one that's a bit more fun, it's quite tight in terms of it doesn't plod along, and I've lived an interesting life, and you should probably check that out.
Where could we find your book?
So it's just gone live on Amazon. You can
Yeah.
get the paperbacks and the digital copies on
What's
there.
it called?
It's called Reaffirmation, Coming to Terms with an Autism Diagnosis by Rees Finlay. That's me.
Awesome.
So
And
yeah,
we will post this on the social media sites.
absolutely.
Anyone listening who's interested. How much is the book?
It's £10.
Awesome.
But on Monday I'm getting a very limited number of hardbacks off the back of the very successful Kickstarter we had.
Brilliant.
So they'll be for sale probably if you want.
And you
it's
have
additional.
been touring the United Kingdom with this, and your press promotion has been amazing, hasn't
It's
it?
been, we had support from Neil Gaiman, from John Ronson, and these are my heroes. I mean, in terms of, I pulled out of a traditional publishing deal
Yeah.
to go this alone, do it on Kickstarter, and the odds of me being successful with it were very slim. And then by the end of it, we've raised 220% of the original target.
Wow.
And
Well done, mate.
you
That's
know,
cool.
befriended my heroes as a result, which is bizarre. And you know, the list of people who support the Kickstarter, there's so many autism celebrities on there. Steve Silverman, Anna Kennedy, it's amazing.
Rees, you know, autism or not, you are an extraordinary young man. You've worked on some phenomenal projects like Star Wars, Stranger Things. You've got a book, you're helping others, and I just think it's amazing. Well done, keep going.
The question I'll leave it on is,
go on then.
if I didn't have the autism, would I have been able to do that?
I think you would have.
Nah, I don't know.
I think you would have. My gut feeling is.
Food for thought, everyone at home. You know, if you are
postcard
to people at home who think they might be autistic, and you know, like we've talked about today, it's like the formal diagnosis. Do you need it? Will it change your life? Are you in a position where you need that support? You know, be it financially in terms of benefits, or in terms of, you know, workplace allowances and whatnot, or you know, if you're doing well as you are, keep living your best life.
Yeah.
If you're really struggling, ask for help.
Yeah.
It's hard to ask for help.
And Sam, we haven't really talked about your TEDx journey, have we? But you have been organising TEDx in the
Telford. Yes.
And you're speaking in one in Malvern.
Yes.
In 2020,
yes,
which we will
April.
be promoting. April.
Yeah.
April 2020. But you know, just on a leaving note, any sort of pearls of wisdom that you could leave your interview with today, and where can people find you?
So my pearl of wisdom is, please seek knowledge so you can become self-aware. Everybody, if you become self-aware, you can self-advocate, you can ask for what you want and tell others what you want. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If everyone was self-aware, we wouldn't have any more bullying. That's just massive. And you can find me in all sorts of places, all over social media. But you can find me at getyourmessageacross.com, but you have to put hyphens in. So it's get-your-message-across.com. Yeah, there's a drink in Thailand called Gaima, so I couldn't have that. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn as Sam Warner DTM, Twitter, all sorts of things. So
I'm on websites as well.
Yeah.
Twitter, Reesy Time.
There you go.
Reesy Time on Twitter, and for Sam,
I'm Guinevere3. Yeah, because that was ages ago.
You know what? If you're listening and you've been so enthralled in what's been said, do not worry. We're going to post all of this on our Facebook, Radio Plus Coventry Facebook page. I nearly forgot them. It's been an absolute joy and pleasure having you both here. Absolutely have. In the 3.5 years that I've been doing it, this has got to be one of the best interviews that I've ever delivered, and that's down to you two.
All the Radio Plus interviews I've done, this is the best one.
Yay!
Is that because this is the only
No, it's been brilliant, thank you.
That's cool.
But I would like to openly invite you both back on the show together or individually, it's up to you. You've got to watch out for these two. They are superstars of the future. They're making a difference right now. Oh gosh, we're getting a thumbs up from the Urban Cafe. Jay got married 2 weeks ago.
Oh, what did you do that for?
You get married! Anyway, let's... I think we need a bit of music now.
Wait, was he showing us his ring, or was
He
that his
did.
thing? Oh, okay,
No, he was, yeah.
I only saw it in the corner of my eye.
Yeah, it wasn't a rude gesture.
Guys,